Good afternoon, fans, and welcome to another in a series of TalkSports, our Saturday Sports Special. And today, as we indicated for the past few weeks, we are starting our series, a special series, and a special family duo will kick off this series. As we had indicated in previous programs, that integral part of sports, especially in the Caribbean and more so in Grenada, is the family unit. And this week, we have the distinct pleasure of having with us a husband and wife duo who has given in excess, when we put it together, probably 60 years or more of service to sports in Grenada and the Caribbean, because their involvement in sports have catapulted throughout the region and even the international scene. I'm speaking about Barbara and Nathaniel Simpson. They go by the name of Barbs for short and Nat for short. And they have been involved in netball and football respectively, both in the village, the community level, and the national level for, years upon years. Let's welcome Barbs and Nat Simpson to our program this afternoon. Good afternoon, Nat and Barbs.
To your listeners and viewers.
Yes, good afternoon. And it's a pleasure having both of you on. And as I indicated, and I think probably both of you may be able to put in perspective the number of years that you have been involved in sports, and to some extent for those who you have impacted on, your togetherness have exceeded their lifetime, as Nat was telling me earlier today, for the amount of years that you were together. But first of all, let's start with, as we say, women's first. But your involvement in sports in Grenada, when it actually started, how you got started.
Okay, I started with the late Margaret Dow when I was just 10 years. I went to the park with my bigger sister, and when somebody was not there, she would say, "Look at Gerald, come on in." So that's where I started. So that's about 50 something years ago, Michael.
Yeah, quite a bit, um, and very much so. You have been involved in the community for probably all those years, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I started with the Queen's Park Rangers in 1985. When I returned from Trinidad, Teresa Beggs was coaching. She had taken over from Mrs. Dow. And so I started with Rangers. Not that I wanted to coach then, I was still a player. So I wanted to continue playing. But since no one was coming forward, I decided to take up the mantle and go with it. And here I am with it still today.
Okay. Interesting enough, and we have Mr. Simpson, Nat Simpson, who has been at your side for, as he indicated, well, let's say 36 or more years, well, 36 years, I think. Welcome, Mr. Simpson. Your involvement in sports, and especially in the community of River Road, um, when we look back at it, you have been involved in sports. And by the way, and not just River Road, I should indicated, because you have also assisted other communities throughout Grenada. Whenever you called upon to assist, you always willing to and always prepared to. The sort of, someone indicated to me last night, your commitment, your dedication, your humbleness, without fussing. Once they call you, Natis will be like, tell me what time and where, and you are there, and most times on time, waiting for those. Tell me something about that, Nat. where is that discipline came from? I mean, this commitment, this discipline, this dedication to sports, especially football.
Well, it's a question of you liking what you do and your plan is to be there at time. Being early is important because you can't tell people you're coming late and while you are late. So I said that one principle from the get-go that I'm on time. And that's
Mhm. That's interesting, and it's something you would have passed on to most of the persons you have impacted on. As a parent was telling me last night, that discipline would have helped his son into high school in the United States and even into college. Um, you saw that sort of regiment. I say regiment because it's almost as military type, sort of discipline that at the start may sound a bit harsh, but in reality had impacted on the lives of those individuals.
actually that is what the intention is, because people want to know. You listen to the daily news. It hurts to hear a player that you were a coach, a child, whoever, run afoul with the law. So
Mhm.
you are responsible as a teacher of the game, a coach or what you want to call it, and a parent most of all. So from that parental angle, I would act bringing that discipline to the whole team.
Mhm. And while we are that, you indicated that part of your commitment and dedication and involvement and stickability had to do with the lady on the other side there, Babs. you know, 6 years ago, married, and she has kept you going. Speak more about that, sir.
Which I can say she actually has taught me one. I can remember, huh, I met her many years ago. I saw her on the last night before I went back to Trinidad on a football tour. A touring team, a group called touring teams, a group of 69 that played netball, basketball, football, you name it, tennis. And the girls had played Rangers league, and I saw this beautiful dark man. And I kept looking at her. And when I went going back to the airport on the bus, I see her, I got her phone number, and she can't come out of my mind up to today. She can't come out of my mind. So that's the history of that for sure.
Interesting enough. And Babs, you need to add to that.
No, he said it as it is.
Okay. All right. But while we are at it now, and we'll go back and forth with you. Let's look about your involvement in netball in the community, Babs. And how that has been going. Even today, you still involved. I mean, even with the grassroots level in particular. What would you say would have kept you, sticking with netball and wanting to assist these young ladies, especially in the sport of netball?
Okay, my passion is netball. I just have a passion for netball. And I like when I coach the girls and they get to the highest level, they maintain their discipline and maintain focus. Um, it brings a joy to me to know that I took this child from age 10, 12, and now she is 20, 30, and she's still at it. She's moving towards the highest level. And so I feel a sense of achievement and pride. So I continue to do it because I think I'm getting returns for what I do. If I wasn't getting anything, maybe I would have stopped. But I mean, not all turn out the way you want them to, but I think so far they've been doing fine.
Mhm. And there are so many others that you individuals you can point to who you would have seen develop, grown into the sport. You wish to just name a few, if
Yes.
possible?
I look at Timmy, for example.
Yeah.
Timmy was the first player from Grenada to play professional netball. And Timmy was on the national under 23 team while I was coaching, and we won those years. And in 2010 was her last year as an under 23 player. And she sat down and she spoke because at the final meeting, what I do, I allow all of them to talk and to say exactly where they're moving to. What's your next step? And Timmy was interested in professional netball. So I said, oh yes, Timmy is 6'6". Not many women are that tall. So I came back home. I spoke with Naka Joseph, and we were working. We were feverishly trying to get Timmy to break into some kind of professional league. And I happened to get her with Coach Melissa Heineman. She was at the time with Celtic Dragons in Wales. And Timmy kept going there from 2011 to 2014. And she had taken the Dragons from position 8 to position 2. So that was one of the successes. Then you look at probably Carissa Thomas, who was junior netballer. No, she was junior sports person of the year. Denise was a sportswoman of the year. She too is from Rangers. She right now has the most caps on the Grenada netball team. She was once a captain. She has, I think, 36 caps or somewhere there. And those are ones that stood out. But the others, like Jana Khalid, who went out in the under 23 OECS ECCB tournament and was awarded the best center court player. She's a Ranger player. And, they just keep going. The younger ones are coming up. The ones with high school, most of them on the national on the 16 team. And so there's great success, and that I think drive me a lot to continue doing what I do.
Okay, and then we have Nat on the other side. No, Nat, I doubt you might be able to be as explicit as your wife in terms of remembering names and all these things, because your cadre of people who have been involved and impacted been so many have left the island. So many you may not recall, because in the context of coaching footballers, you may have at any one point in time 20 plus kids. Obviously you might not be able to remember, but let's talk a bit, Nat, about your coaching, especially at the grassroots level, because I think that is where you had a lot of interest in, particularly, and even up to this day, your thing is about coaching at the grassroots level, giving those youngsters the necessary skills, especially the ball skills.
Well, actually, you have to teach people the game and let them know how the game is played, so they themselves can kind of pass it on to others. And it's a pleasure when you see the players that you have coached and teach, they themselves come out and coach. I started when I came here, there was no pro football schools. The only closest man was Wendell Wilson in River Road, and he started there teaching youngsters. And we work with that. We have fellas like Alistair Fleming, you have and Ali Hines, and these fellas they were academically and otherwise, and I'm thinking about fellas who started with the football schools. And actually the technical director of the GFA at current, Jerry Alexis, he was a part of the early football school. And it is good when you see they have successes. And they are not telling you the people who is the heights, the people who have gone on to national and do what they have done. So it's always a pleasure to teach people and know that they can probably rise in academic or otherwise. And it was very, very good. And the feeling of that is great. And you reach the top of the ladder, you have the Ricky Charles, Spindler Williams. Yeah? These guys were good. you would see them excel and for years. The others, there are others who passed through me, but actually the babies that I know here, those were the two brothers I will always stay at that reach the heights in performance.
Mhm. And over the years, you would have, monitor, look at them, you do you see Nat, and I'm talking about in the context of you even being on the ground, looking at matches, traveling the length and the breadth of Grenada. Do you really see that Grenada has the talents that, and we'll come to that in a while, but what you would have seen and experienced probably back in the 90s when you were coaching, when you were, and coaching at the national level? Do you see that talent wise?
Yes, that talent is there. Grenada has something that is very unique that I was fascinated about. The athletic ability of our footballers. They can run, well conditioned, and strength. Those three things are with them. The shortfall would be the mental attitude, and that's us as a nation. We just watch an election went in America, and you see how it is. People fight down people, and that is what has happened to the footballers. I think that technically, which is my cup of tea that I like so much, that's the area that we have to teach them. You have to let them know, hey, you've got to master that ball. How do you master that ball? Nothing else but repetition.
Yeah, well, I know your what I should say, as Selwyn Noel will say, tactician. That's the word he likes to use. Tactician is not, um, you know, play of the day sort of thing. You want the footballers to be tactician. You want the footballers to think. You want the footballers to be considered just as probably any profession, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, they have to be thinking on the field.
You have
Um,
to.
yeah, so let's talk a bit about that. How have you been getting that message across to footballers that when they're on the field, they have to be thinking and not just a matter of kicking a ball there, but understanding the game.
Well, well, Michael, I can draw you to an incident that Grenada scored against Jamaica in my first chance at Shell Cup final. They scored a free kick. It was a rehearsed situation. One run across, two run across, and the third one hit the net. And Jamaica didn't know what happened, right? There are other times where we did one actually against Trinidad. And when they did all those maneuvers, the same tactics, Anthony Morris started to laugh before he could kick the ball because the Trinidad keeper was the wrong direction. And he sort of laughed because it looked so jokey that we beat him with the decoy, the tactic that we put in it. And then he missed that opportunity. Those are the things. I like you to try things, to be creative. As you remember, there was a thing called brain thing. If you remember brain thing, that made us excited when the new Grenada Stadium and Brinking would have played some good countries and brought some good excitement. That's what I like.
Mhm. Yeah. Uh, and at the other side, Mr. Simpson, you have been given that sort of support because especially when um, Mr. Simpson was directly involved with Queens Park Rangers and coaching in the River Road, you doing your coaching with the netballers at the same time. That was a sort of synergy, a synergy that we don't see in other sports in Grenada. What is so unique about that? What was so inspiring about that?
Actually, when we coach, so when we get home, at the time we didn't have our children, our two children. So we would talk all
And that's a
night
lot.
long.
That's a lot of years ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
we would talk all night long about who do that and how is the best way. So we would share ideas. He would give me ideas. If I complain, this player just not learning this and talking about it, you get ideas coming to mind how I do my next session. So it's very interesting having a husband and wife combination. It could be, I mean, you're alone, you don't have children at the time, it's fine. When the children came along, it was a slightly different story because you had to focus your attention to them. But it's interesting. Coaching, teaching, mentoring, nurturing, call it all the ins.
Yeah,
It's
and I
it's
know at that
interesting.
time it would have been a bit, quite a bit for you, as you say, because these days, kids and so much distracted and what have you. But there's a comment here, and it's for both of you. Part of you, Mrs. Simpson, as always, you are indeed an inspiration. Keep it going in netball. And then to Mr. Simpson, you're no difference having you as a coach at Happy Hill Secondary School. You both such a great combination. Keep it up. And I I bring that point across, and thanks Liebert for that, because
Mhm.
it reminds me of something. Not at the time coaching Happy Hill Secondary School in football, and you coaching Anakin High School in netball, and winning championships at that time. Probably let's go to Nat first because that was a combination.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow always good success. We can talk about it. We can plan. And what you learn is, and it still works with happy with Anglican high schools today. They practice a lot. They train, they do all the universal. So all fundamentals you can check, you can catch, you can play, you can step, you can do everything. So that's where the success is. And that was the success of Happy Hill also. Getting the technical awareness, the tactical awareness and the player, and success is ultimately goal from that.
Yeah, and as we on that there before we go over to Babs, because I don't want to lose that thought, because at that time you had those you well not just had, but you created some players there, as you mentioned. I think it would have been the Fimba, the Corey Charles. I mean, and series of guys that even moved from Happy Hill Secondary School to the various clubs and even the national team.
Well, that's what the statement is. The statement is not. And sometimes I watch it and I study. Why are we not getting that level of fundamental efficiency within the players? You have to do it because sometimes I hear players tell me, all you're doing is controlling and passing and moving. And they can't understand you have to do that repetitious, and you find that they complain about doing that as much. But that's the game. You have to pass, you have to get into somewhere, and you have to move. So we have to do that. That was the secret. Skill is the secret, and that's something that you should have in your morning diet.
Mhm. Okay, and Mrs. Simpson, the netball aspect of it was something with Anakin High School, reign of power, um, terrorizing, the schools. But at the same time, even one of your biggest threat in netball would have been Happy Hill Secondary School in netball, while
Yes.
while your husband was, having his time winning for Happy
Yeah.
Hill Secondary School in football. You are taking advantage of Happy Hill in netball as well.
Yes, Liebert, thank you very much for your comment. I know you were at Happy Hill at the time. There was always that rivalry, Happy Hill High School, Convent High School, McDonald College High School. But high school wasn't always winning. Now you hear people saying every year is high school win and high school win. But there's a program. High school has a program. We start the program in January when the girls participate in the Peter David Magridow netball tournament. So they start there and they move on. There's the form netball, which I introduced, the forms, interforms netball, and then they go off, do exams. They come back after school gives on break, on summer break, we train. So hard work pays off. They train hard and they expected to get the results for training hard. So they've been winning and winning and winning. And the girls sometimes they're not motivated to play because coach, why do we have to train? I said, you have to train so you can get better. No, in order to win a game I have to tell them, okay, you are not playing against another team, you are playing against yourself. So you go for a goal. You go 20 goals a quarter. If you don't make the goals that we set, then you're in trouble. So you have to double up on the next quarter. And that's how they beat teams 90 something, 80 something, because the teams are not competitive to them, the type of netball that they play, which is, and I don't take it as I am sort of saddened that our netball could be like that. But high school plays a good level of netball. And I can say that because when we went to the inaugural champion schools, high schools tournament in Jamaica in 2018, we placed fifth behind, there were 10 teams. And the two Jamaica teams came first and second. We had beaten one of the Barbados team, but then they came back and beat us. So the two Barbados team came third and fourth, and Grenada High School came fifth. So we were still, I can see that we in the loop and we are playing good level of netball, going to Jamaica and putting up a good fight out there, because it wasn't a wide margin that we lost by. They were close. The margins are very close and competitive games.
Mhm. Right. And without losing that comment there, David had put up there for Nat, hardworking football coach, used to watch you working with the students of TAMCC at Tantine, and that's for Nat. So Nat, it's not just at the village, the community level, the national level, even at the T.A. Marshall Community College, you have been, trying to get, football, the basics. And I keep saying the basics because the age group you have been working in particular had to do a lot with teaching them the basics of football. At the T.A. Marshall Community level, T.A. Marshall Community College, how are you able to impart that knowledge of football even at that age where some people will consider that is an advanced age for football, 16, 17, 18? How are you able to do that?
Well, we had a program at the schools, that's a physical education program, where the students partake in all different sports. So soccer, football had a HB 104, which was introduction to football. So you had to go a quick program to go right through. And I see one of your callers there speaking all the time there. And I have learned a lot from him, them, Clarkson, from the steel band.
Mhm.
A steel band practice over and over and over again.
Yeah.
A song, nice. And I see, oh wait now, they practice it and then they suddenly hit you for 7 minutes, the sweet music. So if they keep doing the same thing and getting that sweet music, if I keep teaching the same thing in football, I will play sweet football.
Okay. All right. I think. Oh, we back with the audio there. So moving. And I like that analogy with with steel band because it's something, as you say, the only how you can really perfect, as if you can use that word, the art of playing steel band is if you keep playing it and playing it and playing, and that is what they actually do. So I like the idea in football. The only way you can, perfect, and if you can use that again, that word, the football or whatever you want to do in football, whether it's called kicking a corner, kicking a penalty, you have to be, thinking. But back to the 90s, not with, I think it was, well, it was, but Shell Cup at that time, because you had been coaching Grenada during that critical point in terms of the Shell Cup when Grenada was ranked among the top teams, probably the top 3, 4 teams, always within the 5 teams in the Caribbean, along the likes of the Reggae Boys. Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti. Grenada was always there, and you was coach at the time. You had probably some of the most gifted players you were coaching at the time, I would say. Let's talk a bit about that, and particularly that game where I think Grenada probably was trailing, and then came back and drew. I mean, let's look back at your
Which
time.
one? The Jamaica game you're speaking of?
Yes, the Jamaica game.
Right. That Jamaica game I take it from the top, because you will remember it. I think it's one of your early assignments.
Yeah.
You were in Antigua, right? And we actually scored on Jamaica by the 9th minute. It was the free kick that we scored. And then we hang out with Jamaica going all the way. Rennie Simmons is looking up and he wants to know. I haven't seen Grenada play the practice game on the internet or anything. But yet still this Grenadian team is fighting us. So we took that game right down to the last 10 minutes when Philip Carey Alexander, remember him crying to come off all the time, and he came off. We had to put Anthony Morris out at left back, and that weakened Grenada a bit. And Paul, all out of Jamaica, equalized in the last 6 minutes of the game. That was really exciting. The guys did play well because that time Grenada don't have tracks, so they don't have anything. When eating, the Jamaicans probably would pay them to psychologically throw us off. But that group was very, very happy. When you look at it, it is Franklin, but it's Andrew Monroe, it's Anthony Modest. Those were the guys there. Clary Alexander, Ricky Charles, Patrick Modest. I mean, that was just a great team. And Ron Joseph was there. He did really well. It's one of the teams I thought to be my top performance.
Yeah, but you had a dream team, as you said, but how were you able, with all these talents, because you had the bench as well, how it would have been a difficult decision for you to make, difficult decisions rather, game after game. Who are you starting with? Who are the players you want to start with? Because you had what you call a dream team. You had so many top players, and you had to make that decision as coach. Who are the guys you're playing with, and especially against the top teams like Jamaica and others?
Was not so tough, because what happened, any team you build,
I think one of our mic is muted. Okay, yeah, continue. Right.
Yeah. We had the players that just called for you, the back four, we call them the Republican Guard, right?
Yeah.
And if I say to any one of them now, and if they listen to this program and I say priority order, they will answer me and say logical sequence, because they know what they have to do if they are not in position and when they're in possession of the ball. I really did love that. One of the things that hurts a lot, if Grenada had continuity in training of players, certainly we would have been higher in the region. It was said by Rennie Simmons the following year. He came to our award ceremony and he said that team that you had here would have been a champion team in the region. But you know it goes with us. We change all the time. You're probably going to win today and tomorrow you're not going to be here. So we continue winning. But I see it with you. I know you was there. I know you felt really proud that day. Any Grenadian would have been there, because the tournament was set in a way that Grenada is going to lose to Jamaica. Okay? Then Antigua is going to beat us because they're home. They went on to beat Antigua 3-1 in that game.
That game, yeah.
And won the group.
Yeah.
And when we're supposed to stay in Antigua to play the semi-final, the forwards of football sent us to St. Kitts.
St. Kitts, yeah.
And we lost to St. Kitts it was a sudden death where Steve Mark jumped up and handled that ball. You remember, Michael?
Yeah.
And that's how we went out to that tournament. And then we lost the third and fourth game against Jamaica. Yeah, Jamaica.
Yeah, Jamaica. Mm.
Jamaica beat us, and Trinidad went on to win the Shell Cup. And that was a big performance. I really would have been really, really proud of that team going straight for league.
Yeah. But what you think about um, and what you're seeing, Nat, in terms of talents, do you really think that Grenada and all that you have identified in terms of the training and everything, and I mean, from your time when you were head coach there with your dream team to now, a lot of things have changed. But do you think we can get back to those days, Nat?
Sure, we can head back to that place. You see, we have reached a situation where we have a lot of, we follow the systems. Those days, let me tell you what it was. When we went to that group, you might have helped us bring a bag of balls because it was the team, the assistant coach, and a manager. That was a staff. Now they have equipment manager, ball manager, physiotherapist, everything they have with the team. But you know what is missing? Repetition and the proper institutional fundamentals. I'm not too happy with what I see at fundamentals. That's one of the skills that aches and it hurts. So with the talent that we have, the skill that we have, you have to recognize anybody, even if you're teaching a child how to say come from 1 to 100, they have problems counting 1 to 100. Counting twos, they have problems counting. But if you don't do it, you will never be able to master maths. And that's what I think of.
Yeah, I like how Nat likes to go into the analogy. I enjoy these analogies, but it's interesting because I think sometimes that's how you get the message across. The steel band was something that you explained there. That when you think about it, yes, when you think, oh yeah, the steel band players, they have to be playing, and sometimes every night we hear them playing. And that is what making them playing good, and things like that. So over on your side, Babs, in terms of netball, even at the national level, you had your time and your string of victories, and as we said, some of the players, while you have not had what we call a dream team like that, but you had some top players, as we'll say. And when you look at them individually, not so much as a team, but individually, some of them very skillful players, you will say. And if only, as Nat would have indicated, we have those systems in place that can support these players, some of them probably would have gone a long way. What you saying, Babs?
Well, I am listening to Nat talking about the fundamentals, and I remember when I started with the under 23 national team. It was amazing that you have national players that couldn't do certain things. And this is what led me to now start a netball academy. And we'll talk about that a little later. But there, when with the national team, and you realize people not being able to catch properly, to pass, and their body movement and footwork and that sort of thing, and they on a national team. So we have a lot of work to do on the ground. Um, Coaches need, I know the ministry coaches are trying their best in the communities, in the community schools and so on. But netball, we need to take it from down there in order to get to a higher level. Um, I remember people like Rachel, John, Crystal, Archibald, those from Grenville. And then we had Denise Cameron, the late Sherry St. Louis,
St. Louis, yeah.
Aisha Khalis. That was a very good team. Jana Khalis. And so that was a very good under 23 team. That was a team that won for the very first time, Grenada winning an OECS tournament in 2003 in Nevis.
Mhm.
When we came back to Grenada after that victory, the majority of those girls went on to the senior team and participate in the World Tournament in Jamaica in 2003.
Mhm.
So that was a very good team.
Yeah, and I know that your list is longer than that. You're trying to remember some of the names, you know. And I myself, as you start calling the names, I start remembering some of those girls, and especially as you said, they would have started that string of victories for the OECS under 23 tournament. I think Grenada probably would have won more titles than any other, you know, territories.
I don't think we beat Saint Vincent as yet. Saint Vincent is still ahead of us.
Oh, just ahead. Okay, but
Yeah.
Grenada has had that string of victories for a while, you know, and
Yeah.
it's interesting because the names you have called, some of them under 23 and even national players themselves, they went on to the senior team as well. Yes, something intrigued me there when you mentioned the academy. We'll have to speak about that because it should not just be, I think, based on the comments we are seeing there now, it shouldn't be just a netball academy. You should have a sports academy because there's a husband-wife combination. And what you're basically getting from a sports academy are the basics of netball and football. And I think this is the way we should be going because that is something that we have spoken about when we started the program, and throughout the program we hear various speakers talking about these academies and things, and this seems to be something that is probably needed in Grenada now, a sports academy with dedicated souls and people who have not have had, but they have the track records in terms of successes, in terms of coaching. So I want to fully here and now endorse a sports academy from the Simpsons, you know, where we can get football, where we can get netball and probably other aspects, because you have collaborated, both Nat and Babs, you have collaborated with others like Naka, Joseph, and others who can bring in certain aspects in terms of physical fitness and all the other things. So I want to support a sports academy, and something I want probably you to speak about more, not especially with football. You yourself have been working along with those youths, and it appears more likely now and more demanding now that we should have something that can keep those youngsters focused. And something as an academy is something that is welcome. What you say now?
What you're saying is the fact, but we have to watch and see where we are going. I think now Grenada football itself has what you call money. When money comes into something, it is something completely different. We are saying, okay, we have 10 teams in Trinidad and we have 10 staffs, 10 different coaches to get these teams ready. And the question is, I think it's going out of the same thing I said to you with the fan reputation and what. Everybody's watching YouTube and we see everything there and we put it there to get it. But everybody's asking when they go to see games, what happened? The team is not playing good, the football is not good. So then therefore you have a problem. And if you have a problem, you're not solving it. Because actually I am on the technical committee of the GFA. We have a committee, an instructional group, a what group. But like we ask ourselves, what are we doing? Every day we are on the phone talking, what are we doing to help the players to get them better? We feel that players should be school fed. You feed them with the fundamentals of the game. And you are so right in saying that we should have a academy or whatever. But this is what it is. It's who's in charge and what we are doing about it. That's the question. I am here, willing and ready. And I can tell you, I know there's some instructors out there, willing and ready. But we don't have to call the shots. Once the shot is called, we'll be there. I am willing to any day the fundamentals. Sometimes I go around with a Stanley Charles. I'm all up in green and all about. And when you come, you say, but that. The ball is speaking. You're getting the ball to speak. Why the players are understanding when you do that or you tell them to do that, they're not doing it. So they have to let go. And that's not true. It's just we have to fix it. I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah, well, that's you know, that's And I want to give nod to that as well, as Babs will give us some more on that academy she has in mind, especially netball. But I'm saying that netball has to be a full academy for netball and football, because Nat is always on the side. Nat is always giving that level of support. And I think synergy can trickle down into a full academy. Both yourself, Nat, and Babs can provide that, developmental skills for our young netballers and footballers. So let us hear a little more of the academy, Babs.
Okay, well, it was always my dream on retirement to continue with my passion. And as I said before, my passion is netball. And looking at the fundamentals of the game of netball, as Nat spoke about in football, I realized that players are lacking that. So I started the academy in 2019, January 7, 2019, we started. It's the ages between 6 and 12. And we meet twice a week. We up to 33 girls right now. The youngest is 8'7". That's Ron Joseph's daughter. Ron Joseph's daughter. We had 4 coaches. Is Mary Joseph, Eve, Karen Nelson, Gerald Thompson, and I. So we give all that we can. It's been flooding and flooding. We started off with 3 girls and we never stopped. It started building and building and building. We have one person who is sponsored by someone in the diaspora. So anybody who interested in sponsoring a girl, it's just $120 a year. Or if you want to contribute or donate equipment, we welcome that. We need things like balls and ropes and quick feet ladders and trampolines and so on, because we need to teach our students to jump and to all the basics of the game. But they're quite excited about it. They come from various schools, various communities, but we train at the Queen's Park.
Okay. And I want to make an appeal to those viewers who always inquire about assisting. Here is something that you can provide assistance to, whether it's netball or football, through Babs and Nat Simpson. Anything, football equipment, netball equipment. You can contact them if you need to contact them and you don't have their contact information. You can always contact me and I will provide that to you. And you can assist them wherever possible, as indicated that, folks of various backgrounds. And you can provide that assistance through the academy. You're getting the support from the parents and the communities, Babs?
Yeah, the parents in particular. Some parents come and they would sit down and watch and they're all amazed. At one point I said to a parent, don't come back. She was distracting her daughter so much. She wanted to see her do so well that she kept calling her. I said, don't come back. I said, when she gets good, I put them in the Peter David Magradol tournament, and people were amazed at what they have learned in such short space of time. They're excited. One mother tell me, this child big and lazy, she's not going to learn anything. So she's eating her words right now. The daughter is going leaps and bounds, and she is amazed at how she has stood to something. Because we talk, we do the rules, we do the game, we do the court. They give them handouts. and they ask like questions so that they learn in the game theoretically and practically.
And not football in itself as netball, and we'll speak to Babs will also respond to that. It's changing so much in terms of the rules. How do you keep abreast with all these changes ever so often in a game of football, and having to, not as a player but as a coach, having to put that, transfer that knowledge to the youngsters who may just be interested in probably watching a football game but not understanding the rules, understanding the laws of the game?
But Michael, it's just like you watch the television and you see the rules changing in you watch the World Games. Barbara and myself always watching. Maybe a little tangle, some football, some netball. So we watch the levels and we see where the changes go and everything. And that's one of the things we find. What we don't see, we write and ask for, seek for the knowledge to be stay abreast with the changes, because the fundamentals don't change. Most of the time is the probably the thirds and the quarters and the little bit, but the fundamentals, the catching, the control, the pass, the move, they remain pretty much the same. And the sharp point, and that's about it. The substitution and the time and how you go on the court and you know what. Mike, before I list here, I did women football here for quite a while. And I was happy with it. I remember early when I tried playing a Rocky Hood, Alicia John, Ronisha Frank, played them between the boys. They were stopped from playing. They said girls can't play between the boys, which was a mistake. And still these girls will be in the top players that Grenadian has produced. And we need to teach them and get them. I saw women on the 19 World Cup in Canada. I saw women senior World Cup in open tournament. And we need to get women playing between men. And the game is going, so we need to get it girls playing between men.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the whole issue of women's football, because as you rightly indicated that you had to basically come across some challenges in terms of getting, some sort of recognition for women's football. And we have seen some of the women footballers, even including, I'm trying to remember, is it Renisha
Frank?
Renisha Frank is one.
Probably one of the better players around.
Right, and who is now on a football scholarship. Right, yeah. So, you have been able to get these young ladies really intriguing in the game of football at the time when people were thinking that, that's not really for the girls. The girls should be really playing netball, and you were able to get them. But do you think we're doing quite enough for women's football in Grenada, knowing for a fact that there is a lot to offer? And as you rightly know, that FIFA has assigned quite a sum of money for women's football, the development of women's football.
I would say yes, they are doing quite a lot. But I think that technical work needs a lot to be desired. A lot of people are playing, and to me, I have a viewpoint. I think that it's too much. You go to Miami, you go to where, but are my players improving? If the team Ronisha Frank company and Alicia Jones, Rocket Hood, there's another hood, Shields Hood. If these girls had gotten all the exposure that the current girls are getting now, Grenada would have a heck of a women team. But they are exposed a lot. They are always training year round. I said I wish I had these girls going year round. We never did. It was always training before a tournament and you rush off and you do like that. But they are getting a lot more exposure than they got when I was there.
Yeah. And Babs, on your side, in terms of netball, there are changes in the rules of netball, and I actually subscribe to IFNA, and from time to time they send you new rules and lots of things happening. And even in the case of netball, unlike football, where you have futsal, sorry, I should say we have futsal. Netball has a sequence like cricket where you have the T20, you now have the five, yeah, yeah, and things like that. So, which is fast paced and more exciting. How you have been able to get the girls to understand netball, especially the technical aspect when they're outside, where they can make a pass in terms of, if you're a center, wing defense, goal defense, your area that you can, play in and, pass ball and things like that. So it could be quite challenging for the youngsters.
Well, actually, the rule changes are not many. There's the 2020 rule changes. I was fortunate through the GNA to do a webinar with Jamaica a couple weeks during the lockdown in April, May, around there, that they were able to have that session with Jamaica doing the rule changes. So they went through the rules, and not too many, but there are some rule changes, because they have, like, over the years, you don't have to blow the whistle for play for throwing. They're trying to eliminate too many of the blowing of the whistles. So you just pass the ball from outside. If the ball goes out, you don't blow outside. It went off on you and that sort of thing. But you have to keep abreast of it. The INF website, you can always go on there. The coaching, there was a legacy program going again through the GNA. A couple of us did that coaching course. It finished last Tuesday, and we spoke about the new rule changes and so on. So COVID was bad, but it brought some good out of it, because we were able to do a lot of webinars, the legacy program, the coaching program, the rules. There are quite a lot of young umpires right now in session, and so we there.
And in terms of competitions, especially at the you have the Peter David Margaret netball tournament, which is more or less homegrown, but competitive netball at the national level, you think there's a void? Do you believe there's a void, and do you think that it's hampering the development of netball in Grenada?
I'm scared about netball development, Michael. I'm seeing for the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years, the same set of girls, and they're aging, and I'm not seeing many new girls moving in, because to me the focus is not on netball development. The focus is on the senior national team moving up. Yes, we want our ranking to rise, but you have to have continuity. You have to have succession planning. You have to be able to say, well, okay, the under 16 move into the under 23, the under 23 move into senior. Well, now I think they're going to eliminate the under 23 and is now under 21. So they focus in, because there's a World under 21 tournament and not under 23. So they're going to eliminate that. But I'm not seeing new players rising. I'm seeing the same old players like the Denny's and the Jana and the Rachel, and so still there. In the national tournament, you will find Rangers on top, the team from Collimo and so from Grenville, they second. Then you have the western side with Timmy and so coming in third. But if you look at them and you are there new players? Is there someone coming in that you could say, wow, that young player is doing well? I'm not seeing it. And it's to me it's scary because when that old set of players, they're not old, but when they move out, who is moving in? So that's the scare, that's the worry. It's a worrying thing that we need to get down to the ground, the grassroots, and build players. We need to build players.
Um, on the other hand, though, Nat, we have seen quite a bit of football, even though as a coach, you may always believe that there's need for more, but with there's a Wagiti tournament, there's the Pure Cup that was just concluded, and I'm certain that there are other tournaments that, if not probably for COVID, probably could be back up, especially at the community levels as well. But do you think that there's the need to have more competition, more football, more opportunities for footballers in Grenada?
Yes, I think we have a lot of football playing around this time. The chances are there. Every time you can travel, you can play international football, there's a chance for someone to see it. So the young sellers have to take it and work with it. I haven't been read. Everybody's depending on the coaches when your team practice. I remember Ricky Charles watching Williams, 5 o'clock in the morning, you have to work. And I can say something now and give a look at all the bad. Ricky Charles used to be told, you're holding on to the ball too much. But every time I get him back from the nationals, he's not as sharp as when he went to it. So what we did the session Friday in the morning, only working on all his skills. So then when he go to the national team and he go and score, they will jump and hug him up and we will laugh. We will have an inside joke with it because we are sharpening and make sure your personal skill must be worked out. And I learned that from doing my license in England. I saw international players playing for top clubs get injured and they go back to rehab. And you know what they were doing? They were doing all the fundamentals over again till they get all the regiments working right. And this is something that we need. If we get that, the chances is greater than what, because it is there now. We are going to play the Gold Cup, we're going to play some of the tournament which you are getting chance in this season. And we are seeing, but no locals are getting out there. We have one or two, the Jamal and the who, it's getting out, but we need others.
Mm-hmm. And while we're on that, and that the whole issue of football, because I know you follow football throughout the region and the world, global football. I'm not sure whether it's the English Premier League or the Spanish League that you have interest in, but regionally though, what you would have seen in terms of development of football in the region over the past few years. What's your assessment? We know the likes of Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti, Cuba, and others. But in terms of development Caribbean-wide, what's your assessment of that over the years?
Well, the associations have been trying to get the teams to play. But something has to change, Michael. People have to own these teams. Professional has to step in for the football standard to change. Because you want players to improve their game. They just settling in on playing with the national traveling. And a new trend now is happening that you're looking for your grandfather and your great grandfather who was born in England 2,000 years ago, don't know, and they come back and they play for Jamaica, they play for Trinidad, they play for Grenada. And we're not seeing them. I still think that Brinking would have wrestled with it. Denmark under 21. We would have played top teams. We have beaten Jamaica right here with all local players. So if you drill the local players, it means they're practicing all the time. But if you're going to bring people in 10 days before a game, you will start having problems. And that is about the main problem with most teams, most countries. It's happening right in the media. I saw a guy on a team, most of it is English. Antigua, English, Montserrat. And that's what it is. So we have to, the money is there, the thing is there, train and build your home team. And it's going to work.
Mhm. Well, that's indeed. And let's see what was Jacinta that was agreeing with you actually, Mrs. Simpson. Okay, that was some comments from back then. I just missed out some. Hannah Plenty, good afternoon, two of the great coaches. Okay. Yeah. So I thought, I know I wasn't wrong, but I wanted at least to ensure that we have two coaches, and it's I don't know if you ever thought about it, both Nat and Babs, in terms of your involvement in sports, one in football, one in netball, the impact that has been having, and as you said, sometimes you have to sit down and analyze and do those things, sometimes together, sometimes individually, but the part I want to really ask you, Babs, in terms of what it is that when you sit down and analyze, even amidst sometimes humiliation, because as coaches, there is that aspect of it. When you lose, people figure that you should go. People figure that you should be sacked. People figure that you should be fired, even though, by and large, in the Grenada context, it's been done free on a voluntary basis. Even if there's a stipend, some people would say, for what you are putting into it as a coach, it's not rewarding for what you get, things like that. So what it is that goes into your mind, and despite all these challenges, that keep you going or keep you want to go? That's the question.
Well, as I said in the beginning, when I look at players that I coached and I see they reach the highest level, I feel satisfied. I feel proud. Um, I also say when a team wins, it's the players that win. When the team lose, it's the coach that lose. You know. But you coach your team to master anything. You give them different options where if a team is doing this, that you have one, two, three options that you could do that. But despite all of that, I still feel that if I have to do it again, I will still be a coach. Having to mentor and to talk and to steer people academically, physically, lifestyle changes, I have to do that. I will continue to do it. There are players from the Anglican High School that I physically take in to my house to live, especially during the exam years. When I think that they're not focusing enough, the parent might say, throw up their hands and they give up. And I will take them. And they do very well. So it's all that. I just look at what I have achieved. I call it I have achieved. They're the ones that are achieving it, but
Achieve
I
it.
feel that I have achieved in doing all this. Parents, I have a very good relationship with parents of all levels. Just yesterday, one of the academy parent called me and we were chatting. And I said, all these children are mine. Y'all just make them, but once they get onto netball in my hands, they are mine. And
Right,
so that's the satisfaction.
right. Well, before I go to Nat, there's something Toro is saying. Excellent coaching jobs by Nat and Babs, and thanks to Nat for agreeing to arrange a game a few years ago at Old Trafford between Angel female panelists and his women's soccer players. Habs girls were better at pan than football, but they tried and will be back to take on Nats players. That was a few years ago. Toro always remembering these things. But it's nice to see that Nat, and in a way it brings communities together. It's not just the competitive side of the football, but as Toro is saying there, female panelists against your female, and there's some level of camaraderie in it, and togetherness. And in the long run, I know your aim is basically getting them to understand football, getting them to play football, getting them to be, gradually into it. And something that I think we need more of. And thanks for doing that, because, some figure that it must be probably a GFA competition, or it must be a competition. But by doing that, you are basically introducing them to football and getting them to like football as well.
Yes, I did remember the game. We did have fun, the girls would not be up to, but we had fun because we were going out and playing the Jamaicans, and we were up to it, and they were beating us also. So it means that if you're not up to it, you'll be beaten. I enjoyed that evening. I thought it was very good. It should have had repetition of it. It didn't have, and let's hope at a later date, female football will rise, and every woman in Grenadian must play, because there is a lot of scope for women football.
Mm-hmm. And continuing on the part where Babs left off, in terms of you, despite the challenges, getting up probably every day and deciding, yes, I have a job to do, I have to do this, I have to do that. Is it a situation where, like Babs, you think about the young ones, you think about their future, you think about what football can bring to them and their families in the long run?
Oh, well, yes, for sure. Because the extension, these girls that we see here, sometimes you have to tell them 7 o'clock, news time, look at the news. It's strange to them. And because we try to get them in mainstream things, know what's happening in the day, know the news, know everything. Let's chat, open chat as a family. And these are the things that we recognize missing from these girls, these boys, whoever it is. They miss it because you have to chat with them to bring them on board. Sports is just one part of it. But every part of life needs how you live when the day comes, how you play the sport, how you're going to manage it, how you're going to cope with conflicts. Conflict comes in you every day, and conflict comes in the game, and we have to put it. So that's one of the things, and that's something that I really enjoy. A lot of the girls finish the exam year with us here, so that I am the adopted father then, as it is, and we did have a good time with it, and would certainly good if the opportunity ever arises.
Yeah. Well, there's one other comment. Mrs. Simpson has done a wonderful job. She had molded so many young girls who, to me, were not settled in life. She had turned their lifestyle and reputation around, and they are well grounded today. That's from Hannah Plenty, obviously. Yeah, relating the fact that what you have done to get some girls to change their lifestyle, and probably through netball, and as we say in the broader sense, through sports, whether it's netball or football, the opportunity there is, these opportunities are available. Even though, Babs, netball hasn't been able to reap the sort of benefits as football and track and field in terms of scholarships, but you still think there is hope for these young girls?
Yes, I would say yes, because it teaches you a lot of life skills. You have team spirit. There was one young lady when she came, very serious, grumpy, and she got into the team and what teamwork is like. And she left, well, she hasn't left as such, but she turned out into be a very nice young lady, a team player, I would say, always offering advice, offering support and things. So despite the scholarship, I mean, it is unfortunate that Grenada can no longer send anyone to the professional league because we're not in. That's how Timmy stopped in 2015. 2016, they came up with this new rule that no one in whose country is not ranked in the first 10 cannot play in the British Super League. And because I was going to try for another 2 players when that rule came in. So despite that, as we were saying on one of the webinars the other day, they don't have to go that far. They can go Jamaica. Jamaica is highly ranked,
Yeah.
and that can be a stepping stone. So probably what the GNA needs to do is to get the young girls leaving school to go to one of the colleges in Jamaica and develop their netball with the aim of coming back to Grenada and sharing and reaching at the highest level.
Well, by extension, I know even Jamaica has been able to, through the system in Jamaica, a lot of their players have been able to go on to play in leagues in Australia and New Zealand, for example. So that is also another possibility. But let me get a comment here. Raul Pierre is saying that the both of them have helped youth, including me. When I first started coaching netball, I took some of the basic drills from her, referring to Babs, and add a little to them and use it. For Nat, you didn't have to be a player on his team to receive helpful information that would help your game. Again, some kudos coming from people who would have benefited directly from both Nat and Babs, the husband-wife duo who would have provided umpteen years of service to Grenada. Babs, have you been able to come up with a figure now? I know we was trying to get how many years when you combine Nat's involvement in sports, both playing and coaching, and your involvement. Have we exceeded the 60 years?
Way past the 60 years, Michael. Way past the 60. Start a count.
That's why I was saying let's average it at 60. That's a start.
Yeah, that's a start.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of years to add to that.
I would say, because once Nat told me that you are together in terms of marriage 36 years, then I say, well, then we have to up that 60 years, because when we have to add, when we have to add his involvement in terms of playing football, his involvement now in coaching, and then you yourself as a young lady, as a young girl rather, playing netball and then coaching, it's way beyond that. And uniquely though, as I got some emails last night, well, one email and then some text messages after I sent out that the impact that has had on youngsters, and I said that in particularly to Nat, because he may not remember some of those who he would have impacted directly on, as we said, because when you have 20, sometimes 25 youngsters, and I mean, it's like a preschool. How would you be able to recall every single one of them when there's always some coming and some going, some migrating, some leaving? But that parent was particularly appreciative of what Nat would have done with his son when he left Grenada, in terms of understanding the basics of football that his coaches at the high school level was very much impressed, in that he was way above the others and that is actually in California. He was way above the others in terms of their knowledge and the basics in terms of football. And I think that is the important part that Nat has been playing in football. You have been playing in netball, getting them to understand, the basics. And as Nat was saying, we do have the talents. It's just that we have to keep nurturing, is that we have to keep them focused. And talking about focus, both Nat and Babs, the internet is one, and social media in particular is one of the challenges that you as a coach will have to face, will have to get the youngsters, while you cannot get them away from it, how you get them to make that marriage between having their time with social media and coming to, the sessions. Not
Yes, you certainly have to do that because when you look at everybody makes a thief and they show you something and they took a perfect shot and they show it 100 times. It's not 100 times they did it. They did it once and they have the thief and the cut. So that's why you need that mentor, that coach who's going to put you through it, who's going to correct you and guide you along your mistakes. And it's important. We all will make mistakes. The coach make mistakes. You learn, I learn, everybody. And Michael, before I know that you're there, but I remember the days when I would leave here at 5 in the morning to reach the Eagles Super Strike. That's what 6 in the morning. Many Eagles young players don't know that. They won the championship in doing that. That time Grenadian was in court. So there were people that really benefit from it. The likes of Legion, Warwood, and company. And we did have fun times. Jester Noel, who's on the executive now, but to leave here for 5 in the morning to reach the St. Patrick for 6 and reach first is an effort. These are the things that are going to make us better. These are the things that are going to make the coaches better. If we don't do that, the game will improve. That's why Barbara is saying high school is training from January to now. These are the things. I hope that the message keep me today on board is your dedication, your timing, your determination, you like it, and you have to stay with it. And those are the things that I'm going to get to. Those are who I would have assisted and get to learn the game and benefit from the game. For that, and while you're on your program, plenty people might be watching. There's a lot of people out there Trinidad, and I know a lot of people are going to be saying, yes, I
Yeah, that's quite a bit, Nat, and you know, Babs, you know, that level of commitment Nat speaking about there in terms of getting up 5 o'clock in the morning is not something that many coaches will want to probably do, knowing for a fact that sometimes you will have those that times you will get onto the field or onto the court and you don't see what you expect in terms of numbers, but as a coach you still wake up the next morning and you go again. So
Yeah.
I'm saying all of that to get to you to the point of why. Some will say, hey, I had enough. You're not interested, that's it. But you're still making that effort every morning or every evening, whereas you can be doing something else, or you can say, these are the people I want to work with. But you're still opening it up, you're still making that effort every single day, or every time there's a scheduled session to go out. And even despite these challenges, sometimes, the attitude, not to mention that, the attitude of some of them that you will say, hey, no, let me turn my back, let me give up. But you're still doing it.
Yes, it's worthwhile. I think it's worthwhile because even as you spoke about it, so them being on social media, they will sit down home and they have a session and they sit down on social media. There was one little girl I had to pull up on Thursday. We got a water break and she was on her phone. So at the end, I said, this is a no. You train for 1 hour and a half. The water break is part of your training. Nobody must be on their phones. They're addicted to the phones. Sometimes I say to them, okay, I know you like to be on the phones or the devices, go and look up for a drill, an attacking drill, and come with it for the next day. So they like to be on the devices. Instead they do an assignment on the
And a
device.
device. I love that. I
So
like
you
that.
have to work with them. You have to work with them. You have to get to them. This is a modern time. You can't remain back then. And but you get them to do things on the same devices that they like.
Mhm. But
So
not your level of discipline is different from others. Not necessarily. Some do have a similar, way of doing things. But your level of discipline, and while some may not like your style, there are many who prefer that because, as they will say, that is what is needed, especially a time like now. you know, in terms of adherence and the strict policy, strict discipline. When you put down certain rules, you put it there for a reason because you know what you expect at the end. What are some of the obstacles, the challenges you will come across from time to time with the sort of policies that you will put on, for those who are coaching?
Well, it comes right back to like even in parenting. Children will challenge you.
Yeah.
So the player will challenge you. And you have to put it, and they will test to see if you will back away. And they will have their own way. Without calling name, there's a particular player. So I'm hearing him in different incidents. I'm hearing him banned. And I remember my encounter with him. I had him at Happy Hill. He was a transfer, good player, but he must do what he wants. And you must not speak to him because he is the star boy. And I answered, I said, it isn't not yet because he's going to drop you. He's not going to play you because of how good you are. The great Ricky Charles got dropped from games, and a lot of people do not believe it. But if you ask it, he will tell you yes, because there was a time he had a tendency to play and something good is doing him, and he missed a goal, and he will say one profanity he let out. And I said, no, stop it. Later in the session, he says again, the next game he sits out. And that's the truth. Those are the things that they help him because for sure, that is what he likes. He wants to play. So therefore, I'm going to take no chance. Coach going to drop me. So we have to find little rules in which to help them. If something wrong with them, if I listen to the news and I hear something wrong with Michael Bascom, I will call Bascom. Barbara will call Bascom. You know why? We know him. We feel let down because he did something wrong.
Wrong, yeah.
Something is wrong with him. That's how we look at coaching from through that perspective.
Yeah, and that other aspect where, and I'm glad you mentioned that because it appears that that is where sometimes we lose some of our players, the whole aspect of discipline. And I know you have this tendency sometimes, despite your, as you say, your star boyship, there is certain things that expected of you. And even if you're the star player, when it comes to discipline, it's discipline. And you don't mind, leaving your star boy off the field, when it comes to the whole aspect of discipline, Nat. And something you would have done, as you said, even at the school level, the national level, whatever level you have been coaching, you would have taken that discipline trait with you. And some of the players apparently fully aware of it. Probably from the secondary school when they go onto the national team, once Nat is the coach, these are the things that Nat would not accept from secondary school when I played at Happy or when I played at TAMCC, so I cannot do it at the national level.
That's exactly what it is you want. And that's why in training people, you have to have trainers who can instill discipline in players. So that they need guidance because we have to accept the fact, this is our society. We have young parents, they have children, but they're not ready for even parenting. So they're not correcting their children. So you have a talented child that is very spoiled and going to do a lot of wrong things. Those are the things that will happen. And being the coach and seeing the talent, want that child to reach the sky. So you are the one have to put in that discipline. Sometimes they even respect and to you more than their own parents. That happens, and that's what we work into.
Mhm. Babs, how that would have affected family? I mean, both of you have put so much into sports, service to sports, voluntary service to sports over the years. Obviously, it will take a toll on family.
Uh, no, I don't think, because sometimes that program is different from mine.
But
My
but
program,
but then, well, if it hasn't, then how you have been able to make that synergy in terms of, sports and family at the same time, then, and ensuring that it doesn't affect each other.
okay, let me give you an issue. When Nat went up to St. Patrick to ESS early the morning, I'm ready for work by 7:30 to get dropped to work. And he's not back as yet. And I would call and he say, I'm on my way, I'm in Happy Hill, or And sometimes the children waiting to be dropped to school, and we have to sit down and wait because he had a session in Happy Hill this morning, but we got there on time. And so it mainly in the afternoons, like the children will be dropped off by with our grandmother or so, and or they will be on the field with us. When they got bigger, they got involved. The boy got involved in football. He was on the GBSS team, and the girl got involved in netball. So she played for Rangers. She played for the Anglican High School. So it they were blending to our time. We made time for them. We got home and they got their assignments done and whatever else. But it was carefully planned. So we managed. We managed.
and and I assume when Nat is leaving on the morning for 5 o'clock, Nat is on his mind that he has to get up there to St. Patrick, coach the boys, and to, get back home at a certain time to get, whether those at school or those to work, Nat.
Right.
Well, actually, this is what you're doing, and you want to be able to do something that you can extend. People will find out about it and realize it's dedication, it's determination, and you have to do it in order to get it work. And then that was the reason behind the whole thing. So everybody has a story. Sometimes I today this week I got a call from a guy called Brian Needs, played professionally, played in the US, and he have me there for an hour because he's talking all the good things that we did, all the things that we disciplined him to do, all the moves that he did as a player, and they can remember it once it is built properly. So discipline must be built properly.
Mhm. Um, so, Babs, looking forward, what it is you would like to see happen for netball in Grenada, even if it means recapping, rehashing some of what you would have said
Mhm.
previously. But I mean, it appears from what you were saying, there is hope. You have seen talents. You have been around netball for quite a while. You're still coaching. You're coaching even at the grassroots level. You have the Peter David Margaret Dow netball tournament now, where netballers from all over Grenada is now playing. So you're seeing the talents. What you would like to see in terms of netball for Grenada in the future, both administratively and technically.
Um, what I'm looking at, you see the Peter David Magradol tournament. That is a right stepping stone. And if we step backward, we will realize that there were a lot of community netball. There used to be the Venom tournament, the Granans tournament that used to be sponsored by So Air Gary. We had St. Patrick's had a tournament, and all around the island had netball tournaments. But we're not having that anymore. We have the Peter David Magradol tournament, and that is for St. George's because we didn't want to open up that tournament to make it like a Grenada tournament then. So we say for teams in St. George's who are preparing for the national tournament in March. So I would like to see more of those tournaments. Um, there was a tournament in the southeast, which the president once had. That is no more. There are a lot of these grassroots tournaments that we need to make netball a household game. Football, women football is taking over. And we need to continue with the netball. It's the premier women's sport. And so we need to have that on our table, that we need to play more netball in the communities. Have on a Sunday, Rangers would go out and play friendlies in Grenville, in St. Patrick's, in Guelph. We we had liked to do that, but that's no more, you know. And so I think we need to look more on the ground for players. I find the netball, the national tournament, teams are getting less. Last year there were 6 senior teams and 7 junior teams. The Margaret had 10 senior teams and 8 or so junior teams. So you are telling me that a grassroots tournament is more effective than your national tournament?
Um, you said something there where that's in far contrast to what probably Nat would be saying, because you're saying that women's football is taking over, and that is something that will play in the lap of Nat in terms of women's football.
Yes, I have a problem on the high school team. There are 600 and how many girls in high school, and I had 2 players who played for the football. And when we got to the semi-final, those players decide they go in and play football. Players who are starters on the netball team. So I said, okay, we have enough girls in high school. So if you're playing football, you're playing football. If you're playing netball, you're playing netball. We're not going to accept any footballer on our team anymore. And it happened because there are players who did it before, but they need to manage their time properly. And the ministry need to structure this thing in such a way that you don't have netball clashing with football. Because people somehow, you see a whole host of female footballers now because they're making the national under 15 team after playing 2, 3 games, and they're traveling. With netball, you have to make the under 16 team to travel. You have under 15, under 17, under 19 senior women football. So they're getting an opportunity to do more things in football than with netball, and that's why they gravitate into that sport.
Uh, well, let's see what will happen over the next few the next few months in particular, because I know it's challenging, especially with COVID, and then soon as things start gradually opening up, we'll see more people getting involved. We'll see the enthusiasm, the thirst, the hunger. We'll want to see whether or not it's still there. Who would have probably lost interest in sports, but at the same time, not you have been involved in football for quite a while, and especially at the technical level too. But what's your vision? What you would like to see happening more and more in football in Grenada?
Well, recently I see through the Imani program, something I would have spoken with the president, that I think 30 players are going to be on the Imani program, getting whatever stipend. Football is your first choice, I think. But I'm not sure if football is going to be a first choice. Because the top players could end up having a career in football. And you're going to be careful with it. Because if you try too many things, the talented footballer usually do not really talented academically in many situations. So I do hope that we take it and do the right direction with it, because that is something good. Imagine 30 players training Monday to Friday doing football. So that is one of the good things that you have. There is a lot of youth teams, there's a lot of tournaments, there's a lot of everything playing. So the right amount of football is playing is how do we structure it. And we structure certain things, we structure like the registrations, and you have to be here and you can be played there. And these are the things we have to look and streamline properly than what it is at the time.
Okay. Let's hope that that's really worked out. You say that there are tremendous opportunities for youngsters in sports, but is selling that message across to them. There was once the belief that you have to be a track and field athlete, to get a scholarship or to do something. And I don't think that the message was being sold in terms of football. While there were those who were, making progress, there were those who were getting scholarships, there were those who were going, but I don't think it was coming across as how in terms of track and field, because obviously in track and field, you are basically in the world stage. You're being seen even at the college level if you're running almost every weekend, things like that. So it was more spectacle. It was more, you were getting more people gravitating towards track and field, even though there were opportunities in football. And Nat, how were you as a coach? And Babs have been talking about trying to ensure that the young girls stay focused with the netball. How is you as a coach have been able to get some of these youngsters, both boys and girls, to stay focused on the football, whereas they may be multi-talented? They probably playing basketball, for example. They probably playing cricket. They probably a track and field athlete. But you've seen something in them in terms of football. How have you been able to ensure that they can stay focused on the football?
You, the instructors, you, the coach, have to make sure that the player improve so that he loves or she loves what she does. And I'm good at this. I don't think you can bring a basketball, a netball, or anything in front of a rubbish Frank and tell them to play. Or a Lampard John, if you bring that in front, they'll tell you move that away. Football they will play because they are good at it. Once you become good at something, you will stick to it. So again, it's really trainers have to get it. I'm afraid that I'm not as close, but I'm looking at it and a lot of people are thinking if you play football, like, oh, Barbara is complaining here about the netball. If I play football, I'm going to go to Miami next week before the team is going. But netball didn't want to go Miami. So what? I went Miami first. That's what it is. And we have to get it out there. Get people to become good, and they will stay with the sports, definitely.
Labs, is there ever an argument at home when it comes to sports? I mean, I ask that in the context of the politicians, for example, where we do have politicians who are Republicans here in the US, Republicans and Democrats, and you wonder how it is they talk politics at home. How it is you talk sports at home when Nat is coach in football, you're a coach in netball, and when, as in the case of back in the days when you're coaching Anakin High School, he's coaching Happy Hill Secondary School in football, and Anakin High School trashing, Happy Hill Secondary School. I mean, what's the conversation like?
Okay, like I always have an answer for something.
Go ahead.
Go ahead now.
Answer for something. I remember 4784. Mark these numbers, 4784. And a man in a white gown says, all right, you're going to come to me, and he's going to mediate between these two couples. And I said to my friend, no, we have got to work out our own problem. There's no compromise. So if we discuss football, or we discuss sports, or we discuss anything, At bedtime, all that's what they put aside and they become one.
Oh yes, that 4784, that's the marriage date. That's what he's talking.
Okay, that is what he's referring to.
But
Okay.
we do argue sports. We argue sports. Sometimes we end up agreeing with each other after the argument. But the days with the high school and the Happy Hill, and so he would say, I think all have the edge. He would agree that high school had a better team when they did have a better team. So you look at objectively at the teams, you match the players, and I would say, okay, this one can hold my player, that one can hold my center, you know, and we would match the players, and he would say, I agree. He would concede defeat.
That's the intrigue of being husband and wife and involved directly in sports. Something we don't have much of that in Grenada. And Babs, you think there should be more involvement, family involvement in sports in Grenada, and I say that in the context of we know we come from, whether it's Grenada, whether it's Trinidad, Jamaica, Barbados, the family unit has been that essential in terms of bringing up, the village, bringing up the communities. And you think that we should try probably get more families involved in sports in Grenada? The
I,
family,
I
I should say, yeah.
I wish we can. I wish we can, because my household in growing up, it was a sporting household. For example, Anne Marie, after Mrs. Dow started the River Road competition, Anne Marie, my bigger sister who lives in the States now, she continued. There was a lapse, and then Anne Marie revived the tournament. We had Sprangs Villan, he was running. I think Michelle had mentioned him on the program.
Yeah, yeah.
He sponsors Rangers, and he's still putting back into the community. He is into sports. He went to the States, and he coached college teams to success and all that. And so we were all involved in sports at some point or the other. We would support each other. And so if you have a household, if you can find a household with that level of commitment, I think it augurs well for whatever sport it is. And there could be, you'll find that there are a lot of discussions at the home, discussions that could cause you to bring to the fore. Like, for example, when Nat and I discuss netball here, I get ideas that I can bring to GNA. I get ideas that I can bring to Rangers, and vice versa. We talk football, and I would give him ideas, and he would go with it as well. So I think it can be it can augur well for whatever sport the family is involved in.
Okay, and Nat,
Well, it's the same sort of concept, yeah. Like we say, we discuss. I remember Barbara now starting to coach, and sessions I would have gone to sessions, give some ideas, do some stuff. Then as she graduated and she got better, we go to there's a extension and in-law in sports in Nakadozi. He's always with us, talking, getting them fit, getting what. That's what we do. We work as a team, the both of us discuss, like Barbara just said, and then we go for the in-law. The in-law used to do it, and we both are getting it.
okay. There's a comment there. Let me see. No, we have gone through some of these already. Um, Interesting enough. Let me see what it is. Okay, here we go. Right. The okay. Yeah, he's actually saying about Fun City do have one that is good as well. That is Pierre, as you said, as we indicated. Pierre is one who is from the, well, not really the old school, but he said that um, you would have helped him along in terms of netball. Um, and I think Pierre is Scooby, right? If I'm correct, Babs. Would have helped
Yeah,
him.
but did they say Fun City?
He mentioned something about Fun City do have one that is good as well. I think it's something you mentioned earlier and that you were speaking about that he made that
Okay, yes, that's Scooby. That's Scooby.
right. Yeah, Fun City, and that is actually netball. He's speaking about, right? In
Yeah.
terms- Some of the by the way, we spoke a lot about the Peter David Margaret Dow netball tournament. Probably an opportunity for us to speak a little on it. We have about 10 minutes remaining in the program, but I wanted to speak on certain things. Nat will also speak about his programs. The tournament, what it is like for 2021 in terms of the tournament, Babs.
Well, the thing is, we were short by 1 week this year. We played the tournament, it was open, and we were 1 week to closing, and the island we had to shut down. But for 2021, we expect it, what I'm noticing is if the GNA has a weak year, the Margaret Dow it spills over. Most times we would have more teams than the GNA. Now after with the schools, the juniors get less because the schools that participates in the junior division. But it looks good. We will continue as usual. We've brought in the over 50 in this year. We started the over 50, we had an over 50 competition. We hope that we could get more teams next year. Um, Fun City, Guelph, Pecos had promised to bring a team, and Timmy had promised to bring a team out of St. Patrick's. So we hope we can have some more teams in the over 50 next year. So that was a new component of it this year. So we have the juniors, the seniors, and the over 50. And then we do the knockout. We play with the boys. We have at least one male per team, and so we hope probably we might think about introducing a fast five as well, because fast five is getting up. Teams and countries are getting more and more involved in the fast five, so
Yeah.
we may think about doing a fast five.
And Nat, what's about your program?
Well, actually, it's on the rebound. Actually, because I have to promise to get some other youngsters because the way the GFA is operated now, all clubs, all schools, everybody is registered under the GFA. So you have to get new players, and that would put a little damp on to how you get started, how you get rolling. So the Nat Simpson soccer schools will be there because that's just what it is. You have to help the youngsters, you have to teach them. And 2021 is hopeful for a fresh start in the modern dispensation.
Okay, then. Good to hear that. And I wonder if you folks can see that.
With them,
Did somebody ask who are they? So
Boy,
that's actually
that's 36 years ago.
36 years ago. Nat Simpson on the left. Well, I'm seeing it. You on the left and Bob's on the right. 36 years ago, um, Mr. and Mrs. Simpson. Um, at that time, did you folks think about what you are doing now in terms of sports, football and netball? Was that part of the conversation? Was that part of the agreement?
well, it grew with it as everything else. Yeah, I was in the football, it grew with it, and she worked as a good wife will, and worked with it, she got in it, and right now she take over it.
Yeah, at that time, Nat was already coaching. But as I said to you, when I came back to Grenada, I didn't really want to coach. I wanted to play still, but it was thrust upon me to be Rangers coach. Mhm.
Okay, well, that's interesting enough. Quite a bit for them. 36. Obviously, to cherish that because not many have been able to cherish those moments and keep it going for all these years, 36 years and counting. But
And counting.
yeah, and importantly, the stickability to the marriage, to sports, to the commitment, the dedication, everything that plays along. And I think I don't know if you probably may add Nat and Babs whether sports have a part to do with that in terms of ensuring that marriage, stick together. Some people do, look at certain things that can keep them going, and it seems as if sports is one of those that keep you all going and wanting to go.
Maybe, quite likely, quite possibly, because you go out there and then you get into situations. So when you get back home, there's a big conversation about what was just encountered. So you're able to hold conversations on various things and get various views. So maybe that's one of the things that have us going for that 36 and year and counting.
Hmm. Nat.
Well, God has his plan in this. He has planned. He is with us all the time.
Amen.
We walk with him and we talk with him.
Yeah.
And that's it. Because he is.
All right.
Amen.
Well, good to know, and that's a nice parting way. For 2 hours, we have been chatting. Very intriguing indeed. And again, I'm saying that it's a nice way to kick off that series of program. Unfortunately, we don't have that many families that we can feature in terms of, well, the husband wife duo. We do have a few, but we don't have that many. I wish we had that many, but uh,
Mhm.
as some of the folks have been indicating, including those like Ray Roberts and others who have been sending in comments about that, it has been, wonderful to know both Babs and Nat, and for some of them, from since the time they knew you, Nat, and knew you, Babs, your service have always been to sports, whether it's football or whether to netball. And one of the things I think I said earlier, which I want to say again, is that whenever they ask you, you always willing to serve. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know why you do it, because sometimes, again, I say against all odds, and in this time, in this period, you know, um, some people are not kind. I mean, I have
Mhm.
no apologies in saying that some people are not kind, but somehow you find time to do it. And I use the example: who will get up 5 o'clock in the morning and drive from St. George's to St. Patrick's to do coaching? And in some cases, even if you are paid and paid handsomely, you will probably think twice about it, but you're doing it. And that's part of the commitment, part of the drive, part of the motivation. And I want to thank you, Nat, for your service to sports, especially to football. Babs, your service to sports, especially that to netball. And if there was a prize for, or a recognition, an award, an honor for service from family to sports in Grenada, I think you will be in the top in the top group, for that, because so many we can say about what you could have done, what you could not have done, but you are doing it. Look at that, and I just spoke about it, and here is one. I think they both should be awarded for their hard work and dedication. And throughout the program, we have been trying to identify these sort of things, the sort of services that these people put and come with one where both Nat and Babs have been able to. Any parting words from you, Nat first, and then Babs to end?
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say thanks for having us. And keep up the good work. Your program is widely listened to, and when I get the chance, the opportunity, I always would listen to it. Even though it's gone, I will listen. I will look back at it and nice. I enjoy the programs with people sharing. There's always something to share at times. So thanks again for having us.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing your period, Nat and Babs, with us. I'm certain that quite a few people would have learned something new, would have learned to appreciate. They may have probably taken your involvement for granted, but knowing what you would have been doing, even at the background, things you would have shared, your involvement in football, especially not especially when we had what we call the dream team, how you have been able to keep those guys together, keep them focused. Yeah, the bring thing, as we say, bring thing, yeah, and things like that. So, but thank you once again, and we hope probably sometime in the future to come back again and share, whether it's collectively or individually, or something that you may want to talk about, whether it's probably when your not when your program resume in 2021 post COVID. We probably can talk more in depth about it, the program, and then Babs probably closer to the Peter David, Margaret Dowd netball tournament. We can also feature again on that. So thank you once again, Babs and Nat.
Thank you too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. So once again, folks, both Nat and Bob Simpson, our special guests, for this weekend, and as indicated, they are actually kicking off something that we have spoken about a few weeks ago, and as you would have heard from Courtney Walsh on Thursday, when we spoke about that, which he fully endorsed and wished that they could have more of that in the Caribbean, and we want to applaud Nat and Babs for that, and hopefully they may be able to inspire other families, getting involved. It was so much a pleasure hearing from them, hearing the ups and downs. Nat in particular, getting up 5 o'clock in the morning and having to go all the way to St. Patrick. I mean, not many people will do these things, but he has been doing it, and he continues to do these things when he's called upon. It's something I've heard, I've known, and I've heard that whenever you ask Nat to coach, just tell him when and where, and he is always willing and able to do it. Same thing with Babs. Whenever you ask her to assist, whether it's Anglican High School, whoever it is, she is there, to assist, to coach. She's not part of the school system. She's not a staff member, but she's coaching netball at the Anglican High School. Nat has been coaching even at the TMRHO Company College, Happy Hill Secondary School. He has coached Eagles. I mean, just name teams, because he has been asked to do it, and he has been assisting. And we need more people like that, in Grenada. So thank you once again, Nat and Bob Simpson, our special guest. Next weekend, we have another family, another husband duo. We do have another one coming up next. You'll hear more about it in the coming days. But our feature on the next few Saturdays will be on the family, the husband duo, combination, husband-wife, actually husband duo, husband-wife combination, and how they have been involved in sports and marriage in terms of sports and their families, and in many cases, we know that in the Grenada context, it's, voluntary, but they have been doing that, Thank you, Hannah, for your comments. Also to Pierre, that's Scooby, Raul Pierre, and all the others who have been providing insights, Toro, and Jacinta Telesford and Dean Knott Leslie, starting off with David Seals and others who have been providing that support and for the program week after week. On Thursday, don't forget to join us. We'll be speaking with the technical director of the Grenadian National Basketball Association. That's Mr. Kester Elcock. And he will be also speaking about private primary school sports, because I think he's also the chairman of the private primary schools sports committee. So we'll be hearing a lot about private primary school sports in Grenada, as well as the basketball in terms as a technical director of the Grenada National Basketball Association. We have been hearing a lot in terms of private school and whether they should be integrated into the primary school sporting landscape. We'll be hearing from Kester about that. So folks, thank you once again for all your comments, and thank you for being part of the program. I hope to see you on Thursday at 6:30 Eastern Time, which is 7:30 Eastern Caribbean Time, and then next Saturday from 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is 2 o'clock Eastern Caribbean Time. Until then, thank you very much, and see you on Thursday.